Have you ever noticed how a simple question like, "What truly excites you?" can catch you off guard? It's funny. Sometimes we think we know the answer instantly, but other times, the question seems to unlock a hidden puzzle inside us. Like Maria, a 29-year-old architect from Portland, who told me once that she always thought excitement was just about adrenaline rushes or physical attraction. Yet, during a quiet afternoon in January 2023, while sipping her usual chamomile tea that had gone cold on her desk by the window, she realized something else was stirring inside her. Not the kind of excitement you can point to easily. It was more subtle but far deeper. And what she didn't expect was that this discovery would lead her into a complex web of emotions: curiosity, tension, hesitation, and eventually a surprising form of ecstatic connection with herself. This isn't just Maria's story. It's something many women experience but rarely discuss openly. The intricate progression from curiosity to ecstatic excitement is as layered and nuanced as any masterpiece painting hung in an art gallery. What if we could trace those layers? What if understanding this journey could empower women, and even men, to connect more genuinely with their own desires and feelings? This idea is what we're diving into today. The 10 stages of female excitement as hinted at by deep psychological insights from one of the most profound thinkers of the last century. And no, this isn't going to be your standard relationship advice or surface-level talk about attraction. Now, before we go any further, if you find yourself drawn to exploring these complexities with me, maybe subscribe to the channel so we can keep unfolding these human stories together. Because honestly, navigating our inner worlds is much easier when we feel like we're not alone. Alright, let's start unraveling this fascinating terrain. The first stage is curiosity, but not just any curiosity. It's that delicate spark that flickers quietly before anything else. A gaze caught for just a moment longer than usual, a thought that pops unexpectedly during a mundane task, or even a subtle emotional twitch triggered by a scent or a sound. Curiosity here acts like an invisible thread pulling attention inward and outward simultaneously. Think about Janelle, a 35-year-old graphic designer living in Brooklyn who shared with me how walking through Prospect Park one chilly November evening led her to notice the way streetlights flickered against the bare branches above. It was nothing remarkable on paper, just streetlights and trees, but for her, it stirred something. An urge to slow down and feel connected with what was around her. This kind of curiosity isn't about grasping for control, instead, it invites openness and wonder without immediate judgment. Carl Jung pointed out long ago that such moments are gateways to our unconscious. They allow parts of ourselves that are usually hidden beneath routine or societal expectations to peek through. We might call it the call of the unknown within us. But here's where things get interesting. This stage doesn't explode into passion right away. It simmers quietly underneath awareness like a low fire waiting for kindling. The tension between wanting to explore and fearing what might emerge creates an internal dance. A balance between holding back and leaning in. Imagine Maria again. She felt this flicker when chatting over Zoom during lockdowns in 2022 with an old friend she hadn't spoken to in years. There was no romantic spark overtly present at first, rather, it was that gentle pull toward rediscovering parts of herself through another's voice and stories. That curiosity deepened over weeks until it became almost electric. If you want to tune into your own first stage of excitement, this subtle but crucial curiosity, here's something simple yet effective. Pick one everyday moment where your attention naturally lingers longer than necessary, maybe while waiting for your coffee order or during your commute, and lean into noticing every detail without rushing or labeling it important or not important. Let your senses be curious observers rather than critics. You might be surprised how many overlooked textures there are. The warmth of sunlight on your skin despite winter chill. The strange rhythm of footsteps echoing down an empty hallway. Even just the changing expressions on people's faces around you. These small attentions act like tiny crackles under your skin, signaling that something deeper wants recognition. But I have to warn you, this exercise isn't about mastering control over what arises or trying to force excitement out of thin air. Because spoiler alert, it never works like that. Instead, think of it as giving permission for your inner world to breathe freely without censoring itself too soon. Why does this matter so much? Because according to Jungian psychology traditions focusing on archetypes and shadow aspects, the unconscious parts we often shy away from, The initial curiosity phase is where genuine transformation begins when approached with kindness rather than fear. There's an irony here worth mentioning. Society often portrays female excitement as immediate or performance-driven, as if women should turn on at will just like flicking a switch, which would be awesome if it worked. But real excitement grows gradually through multiple stages that honor complexity rather than suppress it. To skip this first stage is like trying to bake bread without allowing dough time to rise. You might get something edible but missing its full potential texture and flavor. Remember Janelle and Maria? Both learned through their experiences that rushing past curiosity leads only back to emptiness or confusion later on. A feeling many describe as disconnectedness from themselves. A quick practical tip inspired by their stories. Carry a small notebook or use your phone notes app for 3 days straight and jot down moments when you notice your attention sticking unusually longer somewhere. A glance exchanged across a room. Catching yourself daydreaming unexpectedly. Or feeling inexplicably drawn towards certain activities or memories without clear reasons yet. At the end of those days, review what you wrote, noticing patterns without judging them as good or bad, and see if any familiar themes emerge related to desires you've perhaps buried under busyness or doubt. One more thing. I'm aware some viewers might find this focus on female excitation delicate or perhaps mysterious territory. And yes, society hasn't made these conversations easy. But approaching these stages openly can reveal surprising insights not only about relationships but also about creativity, self-worth, and emotional well-being tied deeply into how we navigate pleasure and anticipation inside ourselves. So next time curiosity nudges at you when least expected, don't shove it aside thinking, "I'm too busy," or "it doesn't matter." Instead, try leaning in gently with patient interest, as though meeting an old friend who carries forgotten stories worth listening to. And hey, if all this feels like uncharted territory but also sparks some hope or intrigue inside you, well then, welcome aboard. Before moving ahead though, take stock right now. What did you notice just now while listening? Did anything unexpected sneak in? A feeling perhaps? A thought fragment? Something worth paying attention to? If so, and I suspect yes, hold on to that thread gently because it might be exactly where your personal 10-stage journey begins, which promises layers far richer than quick thrills alone could offer. Alright then, ready for what comes next? Because things get quite fascinating once initial curiosity starts weaving itself into anticipation, the second stage, but let's not jump ahead yet. Better savor each step properly since skipping forward too fast risks losing nuances along the way, which would be tragic given how much meaning lies hidden beneath surface sensations most overlook casually in their daily lives. In case you're wondering why all this matters beyond personal growth, well, society is gradually waking up more publicly to conversations about women's pleasure beyond stereotypes. A conversation amplified by voices online, TikTok trends included, emphasizing self-awareness over shame. Understanding these foundational stages honors not only individual experiences but also wider cultural shifts aiming for respect and deeper empathy around topics long ignored or misunderstood. By slowing down here at stage 1, with patience, it becomes easier later on not just to recognize excitement elsewhere but also differentiate between genuine desire arising organically versus conditioned responses driven by pressure, or worse yet, disconnection masked as passion. So take this invitation seriously, not as another checklist item but as an open door toward rediscovering your body-mind relationship anew. Which might mean surprising yourself along the way, and yes, I'm talking about surprises more profound than any romantic plot twist. I'll leave you now with one final thought before next time. Curiosity holds power precisely because it invites us back into contact with parts of life experienced directly rather than filtered endlessly through external expectations. Even those imposed by ourselves unknowingly over years lived trying to fit molds others set. And by embracing these soft beginnings without rush or shame, you start building trust within yourself required for honest joy later on. Whatever shape that may take personally for each woman uniquely navigating her own path toward exhilaration beyond cliches. If some part of what I said resonates, even faintly, I'd love if you shared thoughts below about moments when curiosity quietly pulled at your attention unexpectedly, or times when ignoring such impulses led somewhere unhelpful instead. Also, there's a guide I put together exploring ways deeper stages unfold after this initial step. If you want help peeling back those layers bit by bit at your own pace, just let me know in comments, no pressure. Until then, remember Maria walking under streetlights flickering against cold branches. That quiet moment wasn't incidental but part of something unfolding patiently inside waiting for acknowledgement. And so are yours. Curiosity sets the stage, but it doesn't perform the entire play. Once that quiet ember flickers, a new force begins to stir beneath the surface: anticipation. It's not quite excitement yet, but something that carries a distinct flavor of expectation mixed with hesitation. Anticipation is like standing at a door you know will open, but you're unsure what lies beyond or if you're ready to step through. Consider Lena, a 42-year-old pastry chef in New Orleans, who found herself caught in this peculiar dance of anticipation last summer. She had reconnected with an old flame over text messages during the long heatwave of July 2023, a time when the city's humidity seemed to weigh even heavier on her thoughts. The messages were playful at first, peppered with inside jokes and nostalgic memories of their shared love for jazz cafes and beignets. Yet beneath the light-hearted banter simmered a slow-building tension. Lena described it as a sweet ache, a nervous energy that made her pause before responding or checking her phone obsessively between tasks in the kitchen. This wasn't impatience, it was something subtler, a feeling of holding space for possibility without rushing or forcing outcomes. What makes anticipation unique in this sequence is its dual nature. On one hand, it energizes, on the other, it unsettles. It's that tightrope walk where excitement tries to push forward but caution holds it back, a balancing act between hope and fear, desire and restraint. In psychological terms rooted in Jungian thought, anticipation reflects the ego negotiating with emerging unconscious desires. It's as if parts of ourselves are whispering secrets we're not quite ready to shout out loud. Recognizing anticipation means tuning into bodily cues. The quickened heartbeat when your phone buzzes unexpectedly or the gentle tremble when your mind wanders towards someone or something with both longing and uncertainty. So how can you engage with this stage more consciously? Here's an exercise. Next time you find yourself waiting for something, be it a message, an event, or even just morning coffee, notice how your body reacts. Where do you feel tension or release? Do your shoulders tighten? Does your breath change? Try this. Take 3 slow breaths during those moments and silently name what you're feeling: waiting, hopeful, nervous, curious. Then gently ask yourself, what am I hoping for here? What am I afraid might happen? This practice isn't about controlling emotions but observing them without judgment, allowing anticipation to be seen as both beautiful and vulnerable rather than frustrating or confusing. Back to Lena. She shared how simply acknowledging these sensations helped her stay grounded instead of spiraling into anxious overthinking or dismissive detachment. This subtle shift brought clarity about whether she wanted to engage further or protect herself from potential hurt. Interestingly enough, anticipation often reveals more about personal boundaries than initial curiosity does. It can expose where our comfort zones lie and where growth awaits, sometimes by showing us fears we'd rather avoid facing. Now, moving onward naturally from anticipation, we encounter something quite different: receptivity. This third stage feels almost passive compared to the energized pull of curiosity or the taut tension of anticipation. Receptivity is about opening, not just emotionally but physically and mentally, to whatever may arise without resistance. To illustrate this, let me tell you about Clara, a 27-year-old yoga instructor living near Lake Michigan who experienced this firsthand during an afternoon meditation session last spring. She described lying on her mat beneath large windows streaming soft sunlight filtered through blossoming trees outside. At first, her mind was restless, a jumble of tasks unfinished and worries about upcoming workshops she was organizing in Chicago during May 2024. But then something shifted when she focused attention on her breath and body sensations without trying to change anything deliberately. Clara recalled feeling like a sponge soaking up ambient sounds, the distant hum of traffic mixed with birdsong, and even the subtle rhythm of her own heartbeat growing louder inside her chest. This state of receptivity allowed her to experience sensations fully without labeling them as good or bad, pleasant or unpleasant. It was as though she became porous instead of closed off, a human antenna tuned finely into herself and surroundings simultaneously. Psychologically speaking, receptivity corresponds closely with Jung's ideas about integration, welcoming unconscious content into conscious awareness gently instead of fighting or ignoring it outright. For women exploring excitement stages, especially after early hesitation phases such as curiosity or anticipation, receptivity can serve as fertile ground where genuine passion begins to root itself organically rather than being forced artificially. Here's something practical inspired by Clara's experience. Find a quiet spot for 5 minutes daily where interruptions are unlikely. Sit comfortably with eyes closed if possible, or gaze softly ahead if preferred, and simply pay attention to breath entering and leaving your body naturally. When distracting thoughts arise, as they inevitably will, acknowledge them kindly without engaging too deeply. Then return focus gently back to breathing sensations. Over time, try expanding attention beyond breath alone by including sounds around you or feelings within parts of your body. The weight on your chair, warmth in your hands, even subtle tingling in your feet resting against floor surfaces. The goal here isn't achieving some mystical state but cultivating receptivity as an attitude toward experience itself. To be open enough so deeper layers beneath everyday distractions have space to unfold spontaneously. There is often humor hidden in attempts at receptivity too. I mean, really trying not to do anything while all kinds of mental chaos erupts behind closed eyes can feel like sitting still while a rock concert plays inside your head, and yes, I've been there. But embracing those moments without frustration teaches patience with yourself, which ironically feeds back positively into how easily excitement develops later down the line because pressure gets replaced by acceptance. If curiosity sparks interest and anticipation heightens tension, receptivity lets emotional currents flow freely once their time has come without getting stuck trying to steer outcomes artificially, which often backfires spectacularly, because spoiler alert, life isn't Netflix scripted. Before drifting too far into abstract ideas though, I want you to think about small moments today where receptive awareness might be practiced casually. In conversations at work while listening deeply without jumping in prematurely. During meals noticing flavors fully instead of scrolling through phone screens. Even lying awake briefly before sleep letting sounds wash over without mental commentary. Those tiny acts add up, subtly rewriting habitual resistance patterns trained over years by fast-paced lives demanding constant doing rather than simply being. And because we're talking real life here, not some detached theory, I'll share how Clara admitted that accepting silence within meditation felt awkward initially. Who knew stillness could feel so noisy? Yet those early uncomfortable pauses gradually morphed into welcome breaks offering fresh insight afterward. Not unlike catching unexpected glimpses behind curtains thought firmly shut tight for decades. If any part of this resonates, even if just whispers faintly inside, you might want to keep track quietly over days when you notice shifts between resisting experiences versus allowing them space just as they are, and see what surprises emerge from such openness later on. Okay, I realize this is getting dense, and maybe I sound like one of those meditation gurus. But trust me, I'm far from perfect at all this. Still, I hope these examples give texture rather than dryness, since genuine human experience always comes wrapped in imperfections tangled closely with moments worth savoring nonetheless. In fact, sharing stories like Lena's sweet ache waiting for messages under New Orleans' heavy air, or Clara soaking up light beams on quiet mornings beside Lake Michigan, helps reveal excitement stages not merely as psychological puzzles but lived realities filled with richness often missed when rushed past impulsively chasing instant gratification, which honestly rarely satisfies fully anyway. So next time impatience claws at your ribs while waiting, or anxiety curls uninvited around hopeful feelings, try leaning slightly toward observing rather than reacting fiercely. Notice bodily shifts carefully. And remember, these are signs signaling movement forward internally even if outward progress seems stalled momentarily. And speaking candidly now, it wouldn't surprise me if you've encountered moments where curiosity sparked interest initially but anticipation tangled nerves so much that receptivity felt impossible temporarily. Again, normal. That internal conflict itself signals vital dynamics unfolding beneath surface appearances worthy attention, instead ignoring completely out of discomfort or convenience. I wonder what would happen if more women were encouraged gently, not pressured, to explore such delicate stages, embracing complexity honestly instead pretending excitement should resemble fast-forward trailers promising only instant fireworks? By honoring each phase thoughtfully, in particular second and third ones discussed here, The possibility emerges for fuller integration between body sensations, emotions, mental narratives so that pleasure becomes less fragmented sporadic episodes but part woven deeply into daily living fabric uniquely tailored by individual rhythms. And hey, if peeling back these layers intrigues you enough that deeper guidance feels helpful along way, there's a resource available diving specifically into practices supporting each stage step-by-step designed flexibly fitting varied paces because transformation isn't one-size-fits-all deal by any means. Feel free to mention below if that sounds like something worth exploring together sometime soon without overwhelm attached, promise. Meanwhile, how about sharing briefly now? Have you noticed times when waiting felt electric yet unsettling? Or moments recently where simply allowing feeling space brought unexpected calmness amid chaos? Your experiences add invaluable texture here beyond abstract words alone. It helps make these concepts come alive really concretely beyond intellectual curiosity alone, which ironically kicks off our whole conversation circle again. Alright, next steps beckon soon. But meanwhile let's hold gently onto these two new companions along female excitation path called anticipation and receptivity. They promise deeper mysteries ahead. Because ultimately human excitement, even female excitement, is neither simple nor linear but complex mosaics formed gradually from many parts coalescing sometimes unpredictably yet always meaningfully reflecting who we truly are underneath masks woven daily by culture pressures expectations internal dialogues. And understanding those mosaics better opens doors toward experiencing more authentic joy connection fulfillment not mere fleeting thrills masquerading as satisfaction. As usual, let me know thoughts below. It means lots hearing from folks navigating similar territory imperfectly bravely seeking clearer self-understanding every day. And no worries if sharing feels tricky, it took me years before I could articulate things close. We'll keep peeling away layers soon together continuing journey beyond these foundational stages since female excitement isn't just physical chemistry. It's emotional nuance mental dance creative pulse interlaced inseparably shaping whole being vibrantly alive waiting discovery patiently amid everyday hustle bustle. So stay curious patient receptive. That trio will serve well going forward no matter where this path leads. See you next time. Just when it feels like we've mapped enough of this intricate terrain, there's a final stage in the unfolding of female excitement that often goes unnoticed, alchemy. Not the mystical kind with bubbling cauldrons, but a psychological transformation where disparate feelings, desires, and tensions meld into something uniquely vibrant and alive. It's the moment when raw emotions and subtle energies mix, creating an unexpected fusion that transcends simple pleasure or curiosity. I recall meeting Sofia, a 38-year-old choreographer from Barcelona, on a crisp autumn evening in 2023. She was sitting at a tiny cafe in El Raval, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingling with sounds of distant flamenco guitar drifting through narrow streets. Sofia described how her creative process often mirrored this alchemical stage, noticing how initial sparks of inspiration, curiosity, followed by hesitant planning, anticipation, and open receptivity to movement and rhythm would eventually dissolve boundaries within herself. That dissolution wasn't chaotic, rather, it was an embracing of contradictions, the softness alongside strength, control alongside surrender. One evening during rehearsal, she realized that her body's tension held both past fears and future hopes coexisting simultaneously. Yet instead of resisting those clashing forces, she allowed them to flow through her movements freely. The result surprised her. A new style emerged from this internal mixture, more authentic and captivating than anything she had choreographed before. This is alchemy, a psychological transformation born from accepting complexity rather than simplifying it. It invites us to recognize that excitement isn't a straightforward crescendo but a dynamic interplay where seemingly opposing parts harmonize unexpectedly. To explore this personally, reflect on recent moments where conflicting emotions arose together. Perhaps joy tangled with anxiety or desire mixed with hesitation. Write these down without trying to sort or fix them. Then imagine them blending naturally like colors mixing on a painter's palette. No need to choose one shade over another but appreciating how their combination creates something novel. This exercise encourages embracing inner paradoxes instead of labeling parts as good or bad. Such acceptance frees energy previously locked in judgment or avoidance, opening pathways toward fuller experience. Now, stepping back for a moment, it's tempting to want neatly packaged answers about female excitement. 10 clear steps progressing smoothly like chapters in a book. But life rarely follows such tidy scripts, and neither do our feelings. Instead, understanding these stages, from curiosity's soft beckoning through anticipation's tension and receptivity's openness to alchemy's complex synthesis, offers language for what often feels confusing or contradictory inside. Imagine excitement less as a single flashfire event and more as an evolving dance with self-awareness as music guiding each step gently rather than forcing choreography rigidly. This perspective can shift how women relate not only to their own pleasure but also creativity, relationships, and emotional resilience. Acknowledging nuances allows space for vulnerability and strength to coexist without shame or pressure, something sorely needed amid cultural narratives demanding instant gratification or perfection. And here's where something unexpected happens. By honoring these layered stages patiently, even when they don't fit societal expectations, we cultivate trust in our inner rhythms. This trust grounds identity firmly enough to navigate uncertainties without losing sight of authenticity beneath surface roles we play daily. Thinking back to Maria in Portland quietly contemplating flickering streetlights, Lena juggling playful messages under New Orleans' sultry skies, Clara breathing deeply beside Lake Michigan's calm waters, finally Sophia transforming tensions into dance. We glimpse diverse stories united by shared human complexity dressed differently across contexts yet echoing universal themes. What if each woman could hold her own complex mosaic lovingly without rushing resolutions? What if curiosity wasn't dismissed as frivolous but cherished as portal? What if anticipation became invitation rather than burden? What if receptivity blossomed beyond passive waiting into active listening? And what if alchemy reminded us complexity itself holds beauty untamed by simplification? I don't claim to have definitive answers here, but perhaps offering space for these questions matters more than certainty sometimes because life is messy, unpredictable, and female excitement embodies that messiness vividly. I invite you now, not as an abstract ideal but real conversation partner, to consider how these reflections resonate within your life right now. Maybe there are moments you've rushed past curiosity too quickly or felt overwhelmed by anticipation's tight grip, or longed for receptivity amidst noisy chaos, or sensed alchemy stirring quietly beneath daily routines but weren't sure how to engage it safely. Whatever your experience is right now, is valid, worthy, meaningful no matter how fragmented or serene it appears externally. And if you feel stirred even faintly by any piece shared today, that subtle urge beckoning toward deeper self-connection, I encourage gentle patience with yourself above all else because transformation doesn't unfold neatly overnight but grows gradually from small acts of attention, courage, vulnerability repeated faithfully over time. There's no finish line here, only ongoing, unfolding, mysterious, surprising, always unfinished processes reflecting humanity itself, deeply flawed, brilliant, endlessly trying again despite uncertainties, setbacks, fears, hopes, dreams tangled inseparably within us all, uniquely yet collectively shared. So keep noticing those quiet moments, those tiny sparks glowing softly beneath everyday noise, and allow them space free from harsh judgment so they can reveal hidden treasures, slowly revealing more about who you truly are beyond masks, pressures, expectations imposed externally, internally alike. And maybe someday soon you'll find yourself dancing spontaneously through contradictions, embraced fully rather than resisted. A dance choreographed not by obligation but by heartfelt resonance, inviting authenticity, joy, connection beyond words, simply known inside, profoundly lived fully. If this struck chords within, I'd love hearing thoughts, stories, reflections below because sharing our imperfect journeys enriches collective understanding beyond isolated struggles, abstract theories alone. Also remember there's deeper material available exploring all 10 stages in richer detail, including supportive practices crafted thoughtfully, adapting flexible pacing so exploration feels empowering, not overwhelming. Whenever ready, just ask anytime. For now though, let this final thought linger. Female excitement isn't merely about reaching ecstatic peaks quickly but about learning kindness toward oneself through every phase, delicate, bold, uncertain, rich, unexpected, until whole mosaic becomes visible, clearly, vibrant, alive, pulsating, uniquely yours, forever evolving, endlessly worth embracing, deeply beyond fleeting moments, transient thrills. It might be the most radical act, to simply stay present, patiently curious, open, receptive, brave enough to hold paradoxes without needing immediate resolution. that leads unexpectedly into true ecstatic freedom rooted firmly in genuine self-acceptance, unshakable despite storms outside, within, woven timelessly. And so your story continues, unfolding beautifully, imperfect, courageously, mysteriously, inviting discovery anew each day, just waiting quietly beneath surface, calling softly, daring, gently, beckoning ever onward toward wholeness, brilliance, joy. That invitation remains open whenever you choose.